You were not forgotten in the days that felt ordinary, and you were not overlooked in the moments when nothing in your life seemed to move. Tonight, I am speaking to the place in you that has been watching signs in the quiet, because something has already been decided in the unseen, and your heart has felt the pressure of it before your mind could name it. You may have been sitting in a bedroom in Bizeros with the fan turning slowly above you, or standing in a kitchen with a glass of water that went untouched while your thoughts kept circling the same name, the same memory, the same ache. The room looked the same. The walls stayed still, and yet your chest did not stay still with them. You know the strange feeling of being alive on the outside while carrying a question on the inside that never leaves. Your shoulders have held more than they were meant to hold, and your hands have stayed busy so your heart would not have to admit how much it wants an answer. There is a sentence you have not said aloud, because saying it would make it more real than you are ready for. What is being revealed now is not chaos, but timing, and what seemed like delay may have been a hidden mercy that kept you from receiving the wrong thing too early. In the old way of seeing, silence meant absence, but in the way that is being opened before you, silence has been protection, and protection sometimes looks like waiting. The tension is real because you want clarity now, yet the deeper work has been happening where your hands could not reach it. You have felt that tension in practical ways, like checking your phone one more time, looking at a doorway a little too long, or replaying a conversation as if one more review could unlock what was sealed. The air of the night can feel heavy when your spirit is leaning toward a promise it cannot yet touch, but the burden you feel is not proof of loss. It is proof that something in you already recognizes what is near. Think about how Samuel was called in the dark, when the lamp of God had not gone out and the house was quiet enough for a whisper to matter. That kind of moment still happens, because God does not need noise to confirm what he has already chosen. If your life has felt like a room where everything is dim but one word keeps arriving in your spirit, then you are not imagining the pattern. There are moments when your soul almost knows more than your mind does, and you keep circling the edge of the answer without being able to force it open. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. You may have noticed that certain songs, certain scriptures, certain names, or certain pauses in conversation have felt louder than usual. Those are not random details. They are the kind of traces that teach your spirit how to recognize what is coming. You have probably felt the difference between longing and peace, because longing tightens the chest, while peace steadies it without taking away the desire. That is why this matters so much to you tonight. The decision that has been made in secret is not being announced to entertain your emotions, but to prepare your heart for the weight of what is approved. Take a breath with me, and if even one of these signs landed in you, if your shoulders softened at any point while hearing this, type 888 in the comments. This is not a number for magic, but a small sign of overflow and quiet confirmation, the kind that lets your spirit say yes before your mind has all the details. Type 888, then come back to me, because the next part is already moving toward you. You have been standing at the edge of something that feels larger than your words, and that is why you need more than curiosity right now. You need stillness that can hold revelation without trying to own it. A heart like yours has learned that not every open door is safe, and not every delay is denial. Maybe you have noticed how a closed door can still feel alive when you keep returning to it in your mind. Maybe you have seen how one silent yes from God can reshape a whole season before any person around you notices the change. That is why the pressure in you has felt both holy and uncomfortable, because discernment is rarely soft when it first arrives. The secret decision being made around your connection is not a rumor, and it is not a fantasy built out of hope alone. Something in the unseen has been settling into place, and it is pressing against the boundaries of what you thought was still undecided. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel that the atmosphere has changed. There is a difference between waiting because nothing is happening and waiting because something is being formed out of sight. The second kind is the one that reshapes a life, because it asks you to keep your heart clean while the answer is still hidden. The old identity wants to panic, but the new identity learns how to remain steady when God is already at work. You know this kind of waiting in the body because it changes the way you walk through the house and the way you sit down at night. Even a simple chair can feel heavier when your mind is carrying a future you cannot yet name. But hidden formation always leaves marks before it leaves proof, and those marks are what you have been sensing. You may have wondered why certain people drifted away, why certain conversations lost their warmth, or why certain paths that looked promising suddenly lost their power. It was not because your life was empty. It was because your story was narrowing toward what can actually remain, and that narrowing can feel lonely before it feels holy. A seed does not complain that the soil is dark, because the dark is where roots do the work that the eye cannot track. What is being decided now has that same quiet quality, and it asks you to trust what is deep before you can celebrate what is visible. The wrong interpretation says you are behind. The truer interpretation says you are being prepared. If your chest felt the weight of that truth, then do not rush past it. Stay with it long enough to notice that even your resistance has been trying to protect your hope from disappointment. That is understandable, but it is not the final word. There is a particular kind of peace that arrives only after the struggle between fear and promise has been named honestly. You have lived inside that struggle long enough to know the difference between pretending and trusting. One keeps your face calm while your soul trembles, and the other lets your tremble become a doorway. What has been approved in secret does not need your performance to survive. It needs your receptivity, your patience, and your willingness to let God remain the author of what you cannot manipulate. That is the hard mercy here, because your hands want control while your spirit is learning surrender. You may feel the temptation to run ahead and build a story before the story is ready. That impulse is familiar because uncertainty makes the mind hungry for closure. Yet closeness with God often grows in the space where the mind is unsatisfied and the soul is still listening. There is a bridge in this for you, and it looks like quiet obedience in the smallest places. It looks like the way you answer your phone, the way you pray before sleep, the way you stop rehearsing what could go wrong and begin noticing what is already being corrected. These are not small acts when heaven is involved. The image I am walking you through is opening like a door that was never locked to keep you out, only held shut until the right moment. If that image has landed in a place you cannot fully explain, type the words "I see it" in the comments. Let the recognition settle where it landed, because naming the witness helps it stay clear in your own record. You are not reading too much into the signs when the signs are repeating with a pattern that keeps returning to your attention. A pattern like that is not asking for obsession, it is asking for reverence. The soul does not need to force what God is already unfolding. You may have felt drawn back to prayer in a more honest way, not the polished kind, but the kind that begins with a sigh and ends with silence. That is not weakness, it is how longing becomes listening. And listening is where the hidden approval starts to shape your next steps. The secret decision is not only about affection, because this goes deeper than attraction or timing alone. It is about alignment, maturity, and the strange mercy of being led toward what can carry your future without breaking under its own weight. Sometimes the answer is delayed because love is being made stable enough to hold. The old story says that if it has not happened yet, it must not be meant for you. But that story is shallow, and it cannot survive the kind of patience that God builds into a chosen life. The deeper story says that what is approved in heaven often arrives after it has already been secured in the heart. You may notice how your body reacts when truth is near, because truth does not always feel gentle at first. Your stomach can tighten, your pulse can quicken, and your breath can shorten when something sacred begins to surface. That is not always fear. Sometimes it is recognition. There are connections in your life that have carried a quiet pressure, as if the ground under them was being tested for stability. You did not invent that pressure, and you are not wrong to notice it. Some bonds are being clarified by what they can sustain, and some bonds are being exposed by what they cannot. What is being approved now may not look dramatic from the outside, but it will carry weight in your spirit when it arrives. The wrong thing rushes, the right thing ripens. That difference is costing you patience, but it is also saving you from confusion. So stay with the narrowing, because narrowing is not always loss. Sometimes it is the mercy of God, removing what cannot stay so that what remains can finally be trusted. The door is not empty. It is being prepared. You have been reading the silence as if it were a refusal, but the silence has been working like a corridor. A corridor is not the destination, yet it is the place where you are carried from one room to another without losing your way. That is what this season has been doing with your heart. I need you to feel how deliberate that has been, because your spirit has not been wandering aimlessly. It has been moving through a process that does not need public proof to be real. The secret decision is part of that process, and your peace will begin to return as soon as you stop asking the wrong questions of a holy pause. The metaphor is moving now, like a door finally opening inward after being held in place for a long season. If what I just named is landing in a place you cannot fully explain, type the words "esto desperto" in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it landed, and then come back to me, because this doorway is not only revealing an answer, it is revealing the kind of heart that can walk through it. You have probably learned by now that every open thing is not safe, and every closed thing is not punishment. That lesson is part of your protection, and it is why you are being invited to slow down instead of forcing the moment. A heart that can wait without collapsing has become stronger than the answer it seeks. The secret decision has not been made in the language of noise, because some of the most serious choices are made in silence. You have seen enough in your own life to know that loudness can hide insecurity, while quiet certainty can carry real authority. The atmosphere around this connection is not frantic, it is measured. There is a difference between what people say and what God is arranging beneath what people can see. That difference can feel uncomfortable, especially when your longing has already attached itself to a possibility. But the discomfort is not a sign to abandon the path. It is a sign to walk it more carefully. You may have sensed that some doors are no longer reacting to your old methods of approach. That is because you're being asked to move differently, not from striving, but from steadiness. What used to get attention through urgency now opens only through truth. This is where your body becomes part of the discernment. Your breathing tells you when you are trying to control what should be surrendered, and your shoulders tell you when you are carrying what belongs to God alone. The wise thing is not to ignore those signals. The wise thing is to let them guide you back into peace. If you have been wondering whether the decision made in secret can still be changed, the answer is that not every secret decision is fragile. Some are simply waiting for their appointed hour. What has truly been approved does not need your panic to survive. That is why this moment asks for trust without pretending. You do not have to deny your feelings, but you also do not have to worship them. Feelings can testify, but they cannot govern what is being revealed. Maybe this is why you have had seasons where one memory kept returning with unusual force. Maybe that memory was not there to trap you, but to teach you how to recognize what peace actually feels like when it stands beside desire. The lesson is quiet, but it is firm. You are being called into a way of seeing that refuses counterfeit urgency. Counterfeit urgency says you are losing time. Truth says you are being preserved. Counterfeit urgency screams, but truth steadies. It matters that you understand this now, because what comes next in your life may require more maturity than the previous chapter did. The secret decision is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a more honest one. And honesty, though it can sting, will keep your soul from building on sand. You have lived long enough with unanswered questions to know that questions can either mature you or drain you. When you keep them in the right place, they become prayers. When you let them rule your body, they become chains. So let this moment be a prayer and not a chain. The path ahead is not asking you to become numb. It is asking you to become aware, without becoming anxious. That distinction will matter more than you know when the signs begin to gather more closely around you. When the pattern turns toward confirmation, let it do that work in you without demanding instant proof. There is a patience that is not passive, and there is a vigilance that is not fear. You are learning both. You have probably noticed how the right word can change the temperature of a room. A sentence spoken in the right season can make your heart unclench as if a weight has lifted from your ribs. This message is meant to do that kind of work in you, not by forcing an outcome, but by telling the truth about what is already moving. A hidden approval is still approval. A quiet decision is still a decision. And what God has already approved does not require you to earn it by exhaustion. If something in this has confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen without words. Not as a metric, but as an agreement that the witness was named correctly. Stay with me, because agreement changes the way the next truth lands in you. You are now standing in the place where waiting becomes witness. That is a deeper place than impatience, because it asks you to testify with your life before you see the full result. Many people want the promise, but few want the formation that makes the promise safe. There is someone in your life who needs this exact message tonight. Someone working harder than the people around them and still wondering why the door has not opened. Someone whose face just came into your mind as I'm speaking. Someone quietly tired, quietly hoping, quietly carrying more than they admit. Send this to them. Not as a recommendation, as a delivery the same way it was delivered to you tonight, by appointment. You know how rare it is to receive something at the exact moment your heart was too tired to ask for it. That is what makes this kind of delivery sacred. It reaches the one who was not performing, only waiting. The person you thought of may be carrying a posture that nobody sees, strong on the outside and worn thin on the inside. They may be smiling while their prayers have become private. They may need the same reassurance you needed when your own chest was heavy and your own thoughts would not settle. What you are sharing is not just information, because information alone does not heal a silent room. You are passing along a moment of mercy, and mercy is always more useful than speculation. If that person came to mind clearly, then do not dismiss it as coincidence. Some people are brought to memory because they are ready to receive what you have already been given. That is how care moves through a chosen life, one heart at a time. You do not have to carry the answer for them, only the delivery. That is enough. The rest belongs to God, who knows how to reach the tired places that language alone cannot enter. The secret decision has not only affected your future, it has also exposed the way you carry love. You are learning to carry it with discernment instead of desperation. That is a holy shift, and it will protect both your heart and the heart of the one who is near. Before this closes, type the words "I am chosen" in the comments. Not as a wish, not as a performance, as confirmation. Type it slowly and let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing, because identity is the seal that keeps the rest of the message from being stolen by doubt. There is a difference between asking to be seen and standing where you already are seen. The first comes from hunger, and the second comes from belonging. This is where you are being led, into belonging that does not need to prove itself at every turn. The old fear says you must keep translating yourself for others to understand you. The new truth says you can rest in what is already known in heaven. That rest is not laziness, it is trust with a spine. You may still feel the aftershock of waiting, because long waits leave memory in the body. That is why your breath has been cautious, why your sleep has been uneven, why your mind keeps checking for the next clue. But the body can learn peace again when it is no longer asked to carry uncertainty alone. The decision made in secret is now shaping the way you receive what comes next. Whether it arrives quickly or slowly, it will ask for a heart that can recognize grace without trying to control it. That is your training now. Do not mistake gentleness for smallness. Some of the largest shifts in a life arrive so quietly that only the surrendered heart notices them. You are being taught to notice. And notice this too. The same God who approved what is hidden can also prepare you for what will soon be visible. Nothing about this is random, and nothing about it is wasted. Even the long corridor had a purpose. So let the quiet settle around you instead of fighting it. Let the pressure ease where it can. Let the old interpretation fall away. What was once called absence is being renamed as arrangement, and what was once called delay is being returned to you as wisdom. May your heart remain soft enough to receive what is true and steady enough to wait for what is not yet visible. May the places that have been restless become places of listening. May your sleep be lighter with peace than it has been with questions. You are not being left behind, and you are not being overlooked. You are being carried through a season that knows exactly what it is doing, even when you do not. The hidden decision, the quiet approval, and the careful timing are all working together for your good in ways that are still unfolding. Keep your eyes open, but keep your spirit open too. The witness in you already knows how to recognize the moment when it arrives. The path is narrowing so that the right thing can remain. And as this settles over you, let gratitude become the shape of your waiting. Gratitude does not deny the ache. It simply refuses to let the ache define the ending. You were never only the ache. You were the one being prepared in the silence, the one being guarded in the corridor, the one being taught to trust what cannot yet be touched. The decision has been made where eyes do not reach, and that is enough to steady you for the next step. Stay humble, stay attentive, and stay faithful to the peace that has begun to return. I speak blessing over your heart, over your discernment, and over the one whose name has been held in secret longer than you understood. I speak peace over the waiting, clarity over the confusion, and restraint over every impulse to rush what God has already ordered. You will not need to force what has already been approved. You are learning that the truest answers often arrive with quiet hands and a steady voice. You are learning that love can be protected by timing. You are learning that the soul does not need to panic when heaven has already spoken. So receive this moment as a covenant of calm. Receive it as a reminder that the hidden place is not the forgotten place. Receive it as a sign that the path is still alive, still guarded, and still moving toward the good that was never out of reach. And when the next confirmation comes, you will know it by the peace it carries rather than the noise it makes. That peace will feel like home before it looks like proof. It will feel like the end of confusion and the beginning of clarity. Let your heart remember this. What God approves does not need to beg for entrance. What is truly yours will not need to be stolen from another season. What is being revealed now has been held for the right time. Stand in that truth without shrinking. Stand in it with humility. Stand in it with gratitude. Stand in it with the quiet courage of someone who has finally learned that waiting was not the same as losing. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are not forgotten. You are being brought into the place where the secret becomes visible and the visible becomes peace. Está selado. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuzazara readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.